years ago, just before women gained the right to vote in 1920. We are a nonpartisan public policy organization that has never endorsed a political party or a candidate. We encourage informed and active participation in government and work to increase understanding of public policy issues through education and advocacy. And we have welcomed men as lead members since 1974, so if you're a man, you can join us and support the cause. Tonight's forum features the candidates for St. Petersburg City Council District 6. As a courtesy to others, please silence all electronic devices. This forum is being recorded by the League and will be posted on our website and YouTube channel. The recording may not be edited or used for any campaign purposes by any of the candidates, and no other recordings of this forum are permitted except for accredited members of the press. So please do not record. Please be present, put the phones away. If you have not yet submitted a question card, please raise your hand and a League volunteer will collect it. We will address as many questions as time permits, but we do have a lot of candidates, so I'm going to be grouping your questions and prioritizing them as we go based on the topics that are getting the most interest. So forgive me if I don't word it exactly as you submitted. The local election for this race will be held on August 18th. There will be a primary for this race. So please make note of that. You do need to vote on August 16th for this race. And the rules for this as a nonpartisan race will be that if any candidate receives over 50% of the votes, this race will not appear on the November ballot, just to be clear. If nobody gets over 50%, then the top two will go on the November ballot. Please note that this is a forum and not a debate. The purpose of this forum is to provide candidates with an opportunity to present their views on issues of concern to the St. Petersburg community. Interruptions and personal attacks are not permitted, and I will stop the forum if those rules are broken. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening and closing statement, and they will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. All candidates will be given the exact same questions. A timekeeper will provide a 1-minute warning, a 30-second warning, and a signal when the time has expired. After the question and answer portion, each candidate will have 2 minutes for the closing statement as well. The views expressed by the candidates this evening are their own and do not represent those of the League of Women Voters. The candidates will now make their opening statements, and we have drawn numbers to determine the order. So we will begin with candidate Williams.
Good evening. My name is Jameka Williams, and I am a community advocate here in St. Petersburg. For the past 6 years, I have worked with several nonprofits, including the League of Women Voters, advocating for reproductive rights and expanded LGBTQ rights here in St. Petersburg, as well as with Faith in Florida, advocating for fair and equal housing, as well as registering people to vote and helping them get out the vote, especially in South St. Petersburg. I've also advocated with DSA for public utility and for expanded tenant protections, and I also serve on the board of my neighborhood association in historic Uptown. I am running for city council because I believe that government, especially local government, should be accessible, transparent, and accountable to the residents that elect them to be there. I believe that you all elect us, we work for you, so that we should be accountable to you. But while in office, I will hit the ground running, expanding affordable housing, funding our arts as a central part of our culture, making our peninsula more resilient and bringing more meaningful and well-paying jobs to our city. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Williams. We will now turn to candidate Mallory for his opening statement.
Yes, good evening. My name is Trevor Mallory. I'm born and raised here in St. Petersburg, Florida. Not afraid to tell you my age. I just turned 54 Sunday. so I've been here 54 years. Product of the local school environment here. First of all, I'm a husband of 20 years. November is my 21st anniversary. I'm a father of 4 daughters, all beautiful, very athletic girls. And that's easy for me to say now, being that I was a 3-sport All-American. I was trying to get that son, but I got all girls, and they still made it all worth my while. Yeah, I'm born and raised here again. Graduated Lakewood High School. Left high school, went straight to the Toronto Blue Jays. I was drafted in the 2nd round to be a professional baseball player. I've traveled the world. I've been a lot of places, but I still came back to St. Pete to raise my family. St. Pete is no place like home. I've seen a lot of different places, but this is where I want to be. I'm running for city council now because for the last 12 to 15 years actually, I've been working very diligently in my community. I give back to my community. I run a Little League organization for the last 10 years for baseball. Told you guys I have 4 daughters. I have no dog in that fight. But as a young African-American male, I know what baseball did for me. That was an out for me. With all the team violence and things we're going through, we're seeing now, there's no telling where I would have been if it wasn't for the community that I grew up in and having the opportunity to keep myself busy and active in athletic sports. I've done a lot in the community. I've been president of the state organization, Democratic Black Caucus for the state of Florida for 4 years. Just turned out last April. And I've also been outreach chair for the DDC here for 4 years. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Candidate Mallory. Candidate Grove, your opening statement, please.
There we go. Okay. First, I just want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters in the St. Petersburg area, the Council of Neighborhood Associations, and the National Council of Negro Women St. Petersburg Metropolitan Section for hosting this candidate forum for voters in our city. My name is Linsey Grove, and I'm running because for the past 15 years, I've been a part of many community meetings. Many of you have been a part of the same community meetings. Workshops, initiatives that bring residents, organizations, and community leaders together to try and address the different issues across our city. And ultimately, when we get to that part where we know we have to go to an elected official to try and get them to change policy, many of us kind of drop our shoulders, and that spark of engagement starts to dim. I want to be the leader, and I will be the leader on council, that our community and residents know they can come to tell their ideas, someone that they can authentically partner with to solve problems, and a leader they can trust to have their backs. Real community change requires somebody willing to put in the work. I have spent the last year pounding the pavement, knocking over 2,000 doors, gathering almost 700 petitions, calling hundreds of voters, and attending meetings across the district to listen and connect with voters. As the only District 6 candidate to qualify by petition, I've demonstrated my commitment to meeting voters where they are and representing the entire district. That is why I want to run for St. Pete City Council District 6.
Thank you. Candidate Homeyer.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here today. And I just want to say I'm really excited about being here today. And I want you to know that y'all have a great panel of people up here. One thing about all of us, when we see each other out, we talk to each other about each other's campaign and how we can help each other out. And I really like that, because I always say we're going to be friends when this is over. We're going to be friends with everybody. It doesn't matter what your opinion is, we're going to be friends with you when it's over. With that said, I want to tell you a little bit about myself, because I learned a while back, if you don't learn about people, you might read about them later when you really don't want them. You'll miss things in life. But to tell you a little bit about me, I moved here 7 years ago. I was born in Texas, Southeast Texas. I lived in Houston, Little Rock, Arkansas, Memphis, Tennessee, and now in Florida. And I've got 2 brothers, 2 kids, and a brand new grandchild named Little Britches. He was born 2 weeks ago. And so, I lived in Memphis, Little Rock, Arkansas. I went to Central High School, where the Little Rock Central 9 came into school and started integration. I worked in Memphis, Tennessee for a long time. And I've been working my life. I've been working my whole life. I was in the restaurant business, and I went to the financial planning and life insurance business. Followed my dad into that career. And I've helped families like yourself do their life insurance planning. And I've helped businesses like the city of Memphis, I work with all their employees, do their financial planning, their life insurance planning, and whatnot like that. My education, I went to the University of Arkansas Little Rock, I got a finance degree, but I advanced my education in the financial field through the American College with my CLU, CHFC, because I've been in, like I said, 42 years, so I've learned a lot. Okay, and as far as what I've done in this, since 5 years ago when I moved here, I watched my dad do this in Little Rock, Arkansas. I've got real active in the Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the Board of Governors. I'm the chairman of the Downtown Waterfront Master Plan. I'm on the board of St. Anthony's Foundation and a lot of numerous stuff. And I try to get out in the community and learn as much as I can. I've learned a lot about downtown. I live on 18th Avenue Southeast, and now I'm spending every day trying to learn as much as I can about the South Side. Because if you're not running for office,
Thank you.
I learned that from her.
We will go to our first question, and we will start with candidate Mallory. I am going to ask a question from our audience about representation. District 6 contains many different demographics and communities. How will you make sure you represent everyone?
Great question. So, as I mentioned in my opening 2 minutes, I was the outreach chair for the DEC for 4 years when I sat under 2 active chairs of that organization. After my second year of being an outreach chair, I received the Rising Star Award from the Democratic Executive Committee. I've been bridging the gap between communities for the last 10 years. I've also understand the importance of teamwork by being a professional baseball player. Teamwork makes the dream work. That's a true statement. I've also been active in communities through other organizations. I've been appointed by the mayor to be on the lot disposition committee. I've been on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. I know how to bridge the gap between multi-billionaires that I worked for the last 10 years and the local communities when it comes to affordable housing. District 6 is the most diverse district we have in our city, and we need someone that understands that. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Grove, District 6 contains many demographics. How will you make sure you represent everyone?
As I said in my opening statement, I've been a part of many different community organizations through my work with the League of Women Voters. I'm a former president. And one of the things that I really focused on when I was president was making sure that the League wasn't just setting the table, that we were going to other people's tables. I think that that's really important because there are many organizations in this district that do incredible work, but we expect them to come to us to partner rather than being a partner and showing up for them. And that's something that I would bring to the dais. I believe that the city can be a great partner, and I believe that as a person who's navigated many different community spaces, I can do that across this district, and I can do it very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Homeyer, District 6 contains many demographics and communities. How will you make sure you represent everyone?
I'm 62 years old, and I've been doing this all my life. I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, in integrated schools, Memphis, Tennessee, and I've met a lot of the community out there. But people that know me say that I bring people together and I solve problems. And that's what I'll do. And a lot of people say, man, it just feels like we've known each other forever. So I really put a lot of value in human beings and try to bring people together and learn as much as I can about everybody.
Thank you. Candidate Williams, District 6 contains many demographics and communities. How will you make sure you represent everyone?
Yes, so a lot of my work with Faith in Florida was coalition building. And that's building like-minded people with the same issue that have a different tactic of approaching it, and you get them all together in one room and you come up with solutions together. And I plan to take that same approach to leadership to council. Also, as a part of my own neighborhood association, I know that's where a lot of decision making comes from and a lot of representation comes from as well. So I plan to make the use of my relationships with leaders in different coalition neighborhood associations, as well as staying in Kona, because if I get on council, which I hope to, I'm not gonna leave my grassroots organization behind. That's something that's gonna be a part of me, and will continue to be in Kona and continue to use neighborhood leaders to help inform me about decision making.
Thank you. And for our second question, we will start with candidate Grove. This question is on energy costs. What specific action should the city take to protect residents from higher energy costs? Would you support studying publicly controlled power as part of the solution?
The answer to that is absolutely. In fact, this week on Thursday, we actually have a vote at City Council to approve funding for a feasibility study to look at whether or not it makes sense for St. Pete to have a municipal-owned power utility. Other cities have done feasibility studies, including Clearwater. They just recently did theirs, and the study actually came back and saw that some of the immediate savings would be 10% in people's bills. There are cities across Florida that have done this. The most recent and one of the best examples has been Winter Park. I would highly recommend you look into that, and I would definitely make sure that you stay tuned for what comes out of the feasibility study, because I think that that's a great opportunity for us to invest in better infrastructure for extreme weather and for renewable energy.
Thank you. Candidate Homeyer, what specific actions should the city take to protect residents from higher energy costs? Would you support studying publicly controlled power as part of the solution?
Well, first of all, I work for you. If I'm elected to city council, I work for you. So I'll be talking to you like I've been out in the community talking to people, because everybody's got a different opinion on it. Now, some people say yes, some people say no. I think we need to study it. Some places like Clearwater are doing real well, but some people ask me, well, how are we going to get the infrastructure? Duke's not going to sell us our infrastructure. What are we going to do if we have a big hurricane? We're not going to have the support. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and the way we answer questions is talking to the citizens and talking to people that know what's going on, and that's what I'll do. I'll talk to people.
Thank you. Candidate Williams, what specific action should the city take to protect residents from higher energy costs? Would you support studying publicly controlled power as part of the solution?
I highly support a public-owned utility. I'm currently organizing with the Democratic Socialists of America to bring a public utility to St. Petersburg. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of Linsey. During the hurricanes, Winter Park, only 2% of residents lost power, and no one came back to tell them that because we lost money during these outages, we're going to raise your utility rates. That is not right, and that is shameful for a billionaire corporation to be passing their costs on to residents who have no say in whether they lose power or not. So I absolutely agree, and I will highly support a feasibility study, and if it's found feasible to bring it here, I will keep advocating to get a public utility here in St. Petersburg.
Thank you. Candidate Mallory, what specific action should the city take to protect residents from higher energy costs? Would you support studying publicly controlled power as part of the solution?
So, this is a difficult one for me to answer, being that I don't really know the entirety of the budget here. What are we looking for? What would it cost the city of St. Pete to actually do that, right? There's a lot of topics that come up, but we also first have to think about the funding. Just earlier today, Florida voted on the removal of property taxes. So we also have to take that into consideration before we start cutting funds from other places. That's going to be an expensive ask. I do support it. I wish there was a way for us to save you guys money on energy and our power sources. But realistically, I would definitely need to see a real study with true numbers before I can make an honest decision on how does that look for St. Petersburg. Because it's got to make sense. It's a lot of things getting cut right now, and we just got to make sure we're cutting in the right places for the right things. So it will take not just my decision, but all 8 of the council members on that dais and city officials and attorneys to come up with it, and the administration to come up with the true decision that's best for the city of St. Pete. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the next question is on traffic safety. Just to let the candidates know, we received about 4 or 5 different questions on this topic, so I've combined them. We will start with candidate Homeyer, and the combined question is, traffic safety is a public health concern in our district. Are you willing to support road safety improvements even if they are unpopular? And what types of road safety improvements do you support?
Again, I work for the people of District 6, and I support safety. When I first moved here, you know how you're not familiar with everything, and I was accidentally speeding down 3rd Avenue. And the police officer pulled me over and he said, you know, I'm giving you a ticket, but if you had hit something, hit someone, your life would have been upside down. And it scared me straight. I was at the Campbell Park last night, neighborhood association meeting, and the officer was in there talking about speeding going up and down MLK. And the problem is, and I would support what you were saying, the problem is, most people when they see an officer, they slow down. Or most of us want to slow down. It's the people that are speeding are never going to slow down. And so I support lives, and yes, I support what do you call it?
Safety improvement.
Safety improvement. I support that.
Thank you. Candidate Williams, traffic safety is a public health concern in our district. Are you willing to support road safety improvements even if they're unpopular? And what kinds of improvements would you support?
Absolutely. As someone who walks, I don't own a vehicle. I walk a lot, or I take PTSA. And so I'm constantly pressing those walk across the street signs, and I watch people speed right through them, almost hitting me. And I've learned to wait because there actually was an incident near USF St. Pete where I was working where a woman was killed because someone ran right through that thing and she was killed. She was an elderly woman. So I absolutely support that. I was at Coquina Key, their neighborhood association, the other day, and there are cameras being put into place to catch people who are going through these lights and going through these walk signs, and I wholeheartedly support funding more of those to be in more strategic places. They said they have about 4 they've rolled out now, but it's a funding thing and a strategy thing. So with funding comes, more safety measures, more, lane merger things that are safer for mergers. You get right off of 275 and you're going 55 and then all of a sudden it drops down to 30. Well, there needs to be studies to look at what can be done to make sense, because to me that doesn't make sense. And people have died and will continue to if we don't get a hold on our infrastructure and our traffic safety.
Thank you. Candidate Mallory, are you willing to support road safety improvements even if they are unpopular? And what kinds of improvements would you support?
Yes, is the question. I would definitely support the safety and improvement of our roads. First of all, what we need to do is regulate these e-bikes. Right? They're way too fast. They don't follow the rules. Last month, there were 5 deaths on traffic. 4 of them were e-bike involved. We got to find some type of regulations around those. Second of all, there are organizations out there that's already doing this type of work. Complete Streets is one of them. I've spoken out for this organization before. We need to get more involved with them and listen to them more because they have some great ideas. I remember a couple of years back on 9th Street North, there was a big to-do about they shortened the road to create another bike lane and put in some calm medians, but guess what? Accidents and tragedy have gone down about 40 to 50% because of that. I would like to see that extend further south into South St. Pete, because safety is very important. These e-bikes are out of control. They're too fast. They need to be licensed and regulated. There needs to be an age limit on how, or not saying kids shouldn't have it, but they should have one to a certain speed, right? Because we have to take care of our children, and it starts in the streets. Summertime is here. We're going to see a lot more of them out there. Maybe it's my age. I don't move behind the wheel as fast as I used to. I don't even drive as fast as I used to, but it's a very serious issue, and we got to find a way to make our traffic streets more safe. And if that includes more traffic calming medians, then we have to implement that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Grove, Are you willing to support road safety improvements even if they're unpopular? And what kinds of improvements would you support?
I absolutely would support any kind of infrastructure upgrades or improvements to reduce pedestrian, cyclist, and car deaths. I'll admit, I'm an e-bike rider, but I'm one of the safe ones. I wear a helmet, I don't go very fast, but I will tell you it's also very scary as an e-bike rider. I would love to see slower traffic so that I can get from point A to point B. And I agree, you know, we've had complete streets as a framework for a long time. In fact, I pushed for complete streets in 2017. That's how long it's been around, even earlier than that. And we've done a South St. Pete mobility study because it's not just safety, it's also accessibility. We want to make sure that folks that have mobility issues, maybe they can't drive, they don't have a car, that they also have opportunities to be able to get to work, and also for kids to be able to get to school safely. I live in Roser Park. Campbell Park Elementary School is right across the street, and it is very scary for kids to cross the street across MLK. So I've seen too many deaths on MLK South. We've got new businesses coming in, and so I want to make sure that all of that is accessible and safe for everybody in the community.
Thank you. Our next question is on storm resilience, and we will start with candidate Williams for this question. Hurricanes Helene and Milton placed an unprecedented burden on municipalities and residents. What steps would you take to improve city capacity for future storms? And do you support the idea of the general obligation bond that has been floated? So that is the proposal they're talking about, for those who may not know, of raising $600 million approximately through a bond to harden storm resilience.
Absolutely agree with raising funds ahead of storms. I think we should be proactive instead of reactive to storms. You know, once the damage is already done, it's hard to get ahead of that. I mean, there's people still displaced. I was working at USF St. Pete when Milton and Helene hit, and we had students displaced because one of our dorms was destroyed. And I was tasked with making sure those students were still fed and helping them get housed while they, while they were outside of their dorms. But I also helped to feed the team that was coming in. We had 2 weeks to turn that building back around to make it livable again. So I never want to see, something like that happen here in St. Pete. We also had students who were out of their own homes, and professors as well. So yes, I agree with raising funds for that, but also making upgrading our sewage systems and restoring our natural shorelines and our mangroves and making our peninsula more resilient and planting native trees. Those are all lower cost, man-made things that we can do, but there's also other cities out there that we can look at the things that they're doing as well. So we can do our due diligence by planting native trees and mangroves and upgrading our storm drains to make sure that they're up to par as well.
Thank you. Candidate Mallory. Hurricanes Helene and Milton placed an unprecedented burden on municipality and residents. What steps would you take to improve city capacity for future storm resilience? And do you support the recently discussed general obligation bond to harden storm infrastructure?
Yes, I do support the option to raise the money. Listen, hurricanes are serious, and we're here now. We still have families that haven't recovered from those hurricanes 2 years ago. First of all, we got to start assisting the families that are still struggling through our permitting department. We got to assist them in ways that we can help them build back faster, build back better, and build back quicker. The only way that works is if one city councilman, as a council person, we have to support the administration and follow the leader. The leader of the administration is the mayor of the city at that time. Whoever that mayor is, we have to make sure we rally around them to come up with a good plan, not only through local leadership, but federal and state leadership as well, because that's where those dollars can come from that can help us get back on the right track quicker. As long as we come together, guys, through these types of seasons, St. Pete can still be a thriving city and it works for everyone. We gotta, sometimes we have to show love to one another, and times like that is when that really comes into play, because like I said, we still have families that have not recouped from that. We even have families that had to just walk away from their homes because of a 4950 rule that FEMA put out. 9 times out of 10, if your house is flooded, depending on who comes to inspect your house, they're gonna say it's more than 50%, then your house isn't even worth fixing. So we gotta work together with the administration to make sure that our city is taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Grove. What steps would you take to improve city capacity for future storm resilience and response? And do you support the recently discussed general obligation bond?
Sorry, I get really excited. So one of the things that I think is really great is that we do have the opportunity to raise funds in order to not only update a infrastructure that's had 20 years of deferred maintenance, as well as invest in future improvements that will help us not only mitigate climate change, but obviously more extreme weather events. The one thing I will say though is that I would love for the city to have a more comprehensive and integrated sustainability and resiliency plan before we invest that kind of money. You know, all of these systems are interchangeable, whether it's stormwater, whether it's renewable energy, you know, all of these things work together to create a more resilient city, and I definitely think that we need to consider that if we're willing to, you know, essentially ask voters and residents to pay for that kind of infrastructure upgrades. And yes, there's lots of things that we can do. I certainly support, you know, neighborhood associations and creating more just informal networks for people to rely on each other during these kinds of events. The first person that you're gonna ask for water or a hatchet if you need it is your neighbor, right? So that's also very, very important.
Thank you. Candidate Homeyer, what steps would you take to improve city capacity for future storm resilience and response? And do you support the general obligation bond to harden storm infrastructure?
Great question. Let me tell you, when I got cut off on my introduction, I didn't get to mention my partner, Brianna, who helps me out and everything, but she was a victim of a lien. So we've gone through that whole thing. No house, knocked out, going through the city, getting things done. But they've all had great answers. Let me tell you some financials on this, because I've gone to a couple of seminars on the general obligation bond. That's what it means. There's municipal bonds where we raise money, put something together, we raise money through revenues. This is all paid by the citizens. And there's two ways we can pay for. We can pay for on our water bill or through our property tax. The water bill would be $486 per person for business per year to pay for that for the next 30 years. And then if we did it on our property tax, it would be 90.96 mils, so that's $96 per 100,000 property value. So that's the two things we could look at. What they're gonna do, right now if we don't do it, it takes 24 years to fix it. If we do it, it'll be 19 years. So we're paying $600 million to shave 5 years off. And we're gonna have this on the ballot. If it's approved, it's gonna go to City Council in July. If it's approved, it's gonna be the ballot. So you're gonna be sitting there going, do I raise my taxes here and cut my taxes here? But as I get to know more about it, I'll be more abreast on the whole situation. But I'll look into the financials. That's my background.
Thank you. For the next question, it will be about the redevelopment of the historic gas plant district, and we received a few very different questions about this, so I'm trying to make it a little bit more general. We will start with candidate Mallory. The historic gas plant represents 86 acres of valuable land. Should the city sell the property as a single block to one developer, or should it retain ownership to subdivide the land? And do you have any other thoughts on how that land should be used?
I would like to plead the fifth on this one. So, first of all, guys, the people who are making this decision really need to understand the history of the gas plant land. To me, this is my personal opinion. I don't think the justice has been served from what was taken years ago. I am a former professional baseball player. But as much as I love baseball, it still has to be something that's right for the city of St. Petersburg. I went to the discussions from the presented the developers of that land, right? And I do have two that I was interested in. I'm not going to say it here today because I still need more information. I would like to see the city hold on to some of that land because I believe the only way we can really control affordable housing in this city of St. Pete is if we find a way to structure the city to become a landlord. Landlords are the only ones that can control the pricing of housing. I've worked for billionaire investors. I know what that looks like. If you're not the owner, you really don't have too much to say, right? So if we really care about affordable housing, we need to hold some of that land, or we definitely need to make sure we are partners with that developer that's going to develop the housing portion of that land. It's a lot of land, and it's worth a lot to this city.
Candidate Grove, the historic gas plant district represents 86 acres of land. Should the city sell the property as a single block to one developer, or should it retain ownership and subdivide it? And what other ideas do you have for the district's redevelopment for community benefit?
No matter what, the plan has to be community driven. I mean, that's something that we've seen over many iterations of this project, right? And I agree with Trevor. You know, I actually spoke to some of the descendants while I was canvassing Campbell Park, and I really think it's time for the promises that were made to them, you know, to finally be kept. And 86 acres is a lot of land. That is a huge public asset. And that means that's owned by taxpayers, that's owned by people here. And we should be the ones to benefit from that, whether that's affordable housing, whether that's more third spaces for people to connect and engage with each other, whether that's just more green space. But, you know, I've worked with organizations that have had put together really creative solutions like community land trusts, or, you know, worked with residents to create some sort of cooperative. I think that there's a lot of really innovative options out there, and I would love for the city to explore more of those, because again, we only get to do this right and do this once. And you think about our waterfront parks, that was a decision that was made over 100 years ago, and we still get to benefit from it today. So that's the opportunity that we have right now.
Thank you. Candidate Homeyer, should the city sell the historic gas plant district property as a single block to one developer, or should it retain ownership and subdivide it? And what other ideas do you have for its redevelopment for maximum community benefit?
I'd like to ask a question to the crowd. Who all seen Raised, the movie Raised? Everyone needs to see that movie. That is a really good movie. It tells you all about the gas plant, the things that you don't even understand. And then second of all, when I think about if we should sell the property or keep the property, and that goes back to we really need to focus on the people in the community and what they went through and have them a big player in what goes on down there. But the second thing is I watched that movie about Ray Kroc and McDonald's, and he was losing money until he started owning the land and McDonald's was on. The one thing about that land, 30 years from now, we're still gonna own it. And we can't, can we produce more land in Pinellas County? No. We sell a big piece of that land, it's not gonna be ours. But I wanna look at everything. You know, we got some challenges. We got a new mayor coming in. It could be Mayor Welch or somebody else. They're not gonna vote on anything till the summer of 27 if we get something together. So there's a lot of missing pieces, but you know, I think it would be a good asset to own the land. But I know as people provide me with, as I talk to people and learn, I might change my mind on it. But if I do, I'll tell you, because I'm straight up, and whatever I tell you, and if I told you wrong, I'll tell you I told you wrong. You know, I don't have any reason to hide anything, but that's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Williams, should the city sell the gas plant district property as a single block to one developer, or should it retain ownership and subdivide it? And what other ideas do you have for the district's redevelopment for community benefit?
So I was vehemently, with Faith in Florida, we were vehemently against selling to the Heinz Corporation, especially because we were giving a lot of taxpayer dollars and bonds to another billionaire corporation. And so I am against selling to one corporation because that gives a lot of power to one group of people over a very valuable public parcel. I've attended a lot of the studies and forums, and I think some of them have some merit. I believe if they could work together to come up with something that will benefit residents, that would be great. Especially the Blake bid, the housing authority, and I think they could work together to come up with something great. But I also think the city should retain some of the land, as Trevor said, so that it gives them some authority and some power as well. But whatever comes out of it, I think our citizens have a right to be heard. I also think it should come with a right to return for descendants of the gas plant and people who are misplaced and still continue to be. And I think that whatever happens should be reparative in nature and not depending just on funds, because people will speak over profit every time for me. Thank you.
Thank you. For our next question, we will look at local tax revenue, and we will start with candidate Grove. The current state level proposal to cut property taxes would result in a large budget gap for the city. What are your biggest concerns regarding the proposed property tax changes? And if you had to make cuts, what would you propose to cut first and why?
Well, first of all, I don't know about you all, but I am very scared for our city if this happens to go through. And I will say, I think that the saving grace is that this will be voted on by you. So I really encourage you to take a look at this proposal and really understand it. Look at your own tax bill and see all of the things that your taxes go to in our community. We are looking at the potential of a 75 million shortfall annually if this goes through, and it could potentially be more. This impacts police, fire, libraries, recreation centers like the one we're sitting in right now. And to make things more complicated, this also will be terrible during hurricane season. We have seen how much our communities need in terms of recovery, and now we're also asking voters to vote on a GO bond to be able to pay for infrastructure. So, thinking about even cutting anything right now, our current budget, we have an $18 million deficit. So, unfortunately, that means cuts across the board if we go even further. And I really don't even want to consider what that might look like. I mean, that'll be cutting almost any kind of core public service. So that's really a Sophie's choice, honestly. Yeah.
Thank you. Candidate Homeyer. The current state level proposal to cut property taxes would result in a large budget gap for the city. What are your biggest concerns regarding the proposed property tax changes? And if you had to make cuts, what would you cut first and why?
My biggest concern is that people don't understand what's going on. I mean, I've been in the city for a while, and I've been in financial planning business, but I couldn't tell you what all the taxes and where all they go for. One thing I want to do between now and the election is have some tax seminars and educate people on really what we're talking about and where the money goes to. I've done some research back there where the new thing will be $125,000 they'll raise it to in 2027, and then 2028 it'll go to $250,000 exemption. It's at $50,000 now, and $25,000 of that is for schools, and then the other $25,000 is for schools and the state and Pinellas. So the schools will get they get part of that. But it's going to reduce the taxes a little bit. We got to learn more about it because they were talking about a 500 was going to move to $500,000, and they changed that. So it's probably going to move, but the best thing we can do is educate each other. The whole thing with living in this city is learning what's going on. I go to city council meetings. I never realized all this stuff was going on. I've learned a lot by going to city council meetings, committee meetings, and whatnot, and just talking to people. And that's what I'm good at, is learning and talking to people and bringing people together. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Williams. The current state level proposal to cut taxes would result in a large budget gap for the city. What are your biggest concerns regarding the proposed changes? And if you had to make cuts, what would you cut first and why?
I think my biggest concern as a community advocate is I'm looking at this as another attempt at controlling and reining in local government. And I think this is another attempt by the state administration to put more control over municipal government. And so I'm hoping that voters will see this as such and really take a look at what's in this and what's going to be affected if they decide to vote on this measure. However, if it does go through, I plan to be just as aggressive I am as getting votes and building coalitions. I will be lobbying aggressively to get state and federal funds. I will fly to drive to Tallahassee or fly to DC on my own dime to get the things that my constituent needs. But I'm also a person who's not afraid to build a public-private partnership to get things that we need for our city done. That's not my favorite way of going through things. As you can see, I'm not the biggest fan of corporations, but if I have to build a public-private coalition and a partnership to get the things that my constituents need, then I'm willing to put my own personal beliefs aside to do so. But I will be baking in things to keep those corporations honest as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mallory. The current state-level proposal to cut taxes would result in a large budget gap for the city. What are your biggest concerns regarding the proposed property tax changes? And if you had to cut something, what would you propose to cut first and why?
Okay, well, one of my biggest concerns is that, number one, it was voted on today in Tallahassee, and I think it passed. So it will be on the ballots for you all to vote on. My other concern about that is things that are usually this serious in nature, they seem to discard the vote and move forward as they want to anyway. We've seen it before. This isn't the first time that Florida has voted to pass something and they still went on to do it. Number one was restoring rights restoration. We voted on that. It passed, but they still continue to move forward like they wanted to do. Second of all, it's going to be important. We just had a discussion about traffic safety. If they remove these taxes, all that stuff goes away. We won't have money for streets. We won't have money for safety. We won't have money for a lot of different things. It's going to be on the administration to decide what gets cut. And I can tell you this, there's a lot of nonprofits around here that's helping a lot of people that will no longer get funded. We need to slow down and really look at what this is. There needs to be a lot, and I mean a lot of educational forums about property taxes and what it looks like if it's taken away and what it looks like if it stays. We all would love to spend less money, but in reality, sometimes you gotta spend where you gotta spend. And I think property taxes are too important to just, not just one person, but it's too important to the entire city and the entire state of Florida. This is gonna damage a lot of cities in the state of Florida, so I hope they get it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Due to time, we'll have to move to closing statements, but I'm going to shout out the topics that I didn't get to ask about. That way the candidates can address them in their closing statement if they choose to. So we had questions about affordable housing, about jobs and making sure residents get better paying jobs brought to the district, air quality, parking restrictions, and sound ordinances. So there's a lot to choose from there if there's anything you'd like to address. You each have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and we will start with candidate Homeyer.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to go over those points. If you want to talk to me, I've got cards back there, or you can go to Doug for the number 4 burgers, stpetersburgers.com. But I want to thank Kona and Franklin. Franklin's one that helped me get over here. I want to thank y'all, and I want to thank you for showing up. I mean, it shows a lot when people come out, support the community, want to learn more about their community, because then you go back out and help other people that weren't here and don't know as much. You know, the city brings in money. It's just like you go to work, you get a check, and you have expenses, and whatever's left over is what you can go have fun with or save with. And that's what a city council member's job is to do, is to manage your money, because we work for you. And that money comes in and we want to make sure we're spending it right, so we don't have to come back and tax you more. And that's the things you see, because we work for you. One thing we talked about tax seminars, doing some tax seminars and educational forums, and I hope we get Kona and maybe y'all to help us put on some programs to educate the people, and I can bring in some speakers that really know well about tax. Because I'm about the arts. We're not gonna have baseball for a while, but I'm about baseball while it's here in the community. That's really what I'm for, and fixing potholes. You know, there's not a lot of potholes out there, but there's a lot of dips. And Brown over here, sometimes she'll be in the car with a Coke and we'll be going somewhere and I'll hit a pothole and she'll spill it all over her dress. She'll get all mad at me. That doesn't start the night out right, so I gotta get those potholes fixed. You'll be paying me $70,000 a year, and what I'll do for you is I'll listen to you and I'll go work hard on the things that are your concerns, and I'll come back and lead you through those problems. My door will always be open, my phone will always be available, and I will always answer my phone. And all I can say is, like I said, I'll work really hard for you, and I really appreciate your vote. And thank you so much for being here. Vote Doug.
Thank you. Candidate Williams.
I want to also thank you guys for coming. Ooh, I think she died. Yeah. I want to also thank you guys for coming out tonight. This is what democracy looks like, and this is what meaningful democracy looks like. I love seeing people take place in, take up space in rooms like these, and these are the rooms that I want to continue to be in when I'm serving you all. Like we said, we work for you guys, and I think a lot of politicians get away from the fact that they were voted in to work and be a representative to people. And as a Black and queer working class woman, I want to continue to be a voice for those communities. But I also want to make sure that all of St. Pete feels like their voice is heard and that their vote mattered when I'm elected. I will continue to work for you guys and continue to show up. Like I said, I plan to keep my grassroots nature by building coalitions. I never say I have all the answers, but I know someone who will. And I will work to continue to come up with solutions to make St. Pete and keep St. Pete a place where everyone can continue to thrive and to live with dignity, and to continue to make sure that people feel like their voice and their vote is being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mallory.
So thank you all for coming this evening. I hope you all learned a lot, maybe some things you didn't know about, and I'm glad to stick around and answer any questions you may have. I cannot represent District 6 without addressing the noise ordinance that she mentioned in one of her statements, so whoever question that was, this is for you. I think the city of St. Pete should definitely look into some type of amphitheater downtown to control the noise, to make it bounce maybe out into the ocean or somewhere of that nature. I don't think that that's a hard task to handle with all the money that runs through the downtown area. I think there's definitely a way we can address that issue. Secondly, I've been around a long time in the city of St. Pete, out in the community. Outreach chair for the DEC for 4 years. Pinellas County Democratic Black Caucus president for 4 years. 2 years served on the Citizens Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. 2 years on the Affordable Housing Non-Disposition Committee. Born and raised here, raised my family here. Also, I'm currently the CEO of Neighborhood Home Solutions. Not only do I live in the community, in the district, but I also work in the district. We're right there on 9th Street, Dr. Martin Luther King, 1600 block. What we do there is we are a HUD certified organization that assists with first-time home buyers with down payment assistance through our partnership with the city of St. Petersburg and the Pinellas County. So if you know anyone looking to become a first-time homeowner, tell them to come to the solution and we can help them out. But seriously, these are the things that I've been doing for this community. I run a baseball organization for 10 years. That's my give back to the community. No boys in that fight, all girls, but I know what baseball did to me, right, for me. And I also understand the business of working together, even if we don't look alike. Growing up playing baseball in the 70s and 80s, my parents, we didn't always have the money, but I also received a lot of assistance from people that didn't look like me. So that's why I believe I'm the right one for the district. because I know what that looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. And candidate Grove.
Again, I want to thank everybody that showed up tonight. Of course, the organizations that organized this. I will tell you, this is a little bit of an amazing moment for me because normally I'm on the other side, whether it's helping with league activities or just coming to a candidate forum like this because I'm a civics nerd. So thank you so much for showing up. And you know, St. Pete has always felt like home to me. I've lived in Roser Park for 12 years. You know, I found community in so many different ways in our city, whether it was as a student or instructor at USF, as a former president of the league, as a small business owner. I also own a small business, the Hypatia Collaborative. We serve 66 nonprofits here in St. Petersburg. And, you know, that has really informed why I'm here today and why I want to serve this district and the city. You know, again, for the past 15 years, I've worked tirelessly to build relationships across communities, organizations, political issues, institutions, to advance policies and initiatives like Complete Streets or declaring racism a public health crisis in our city. And it really was in service of making our neighborhoods and residents safer, better connected, and engaged. And that makes me uniquely qualified for this office. I'm able to navigate different spaces in one of the most diverse districts in our city. This will be critical as we collectively find ways to better connect and engage residents. There's a lot of things that you all are worried about. I mean, given the entire list of things that you brought here to ask questions about. And I am here to listen, and I'm here to work with you to find solutions to solve those problems for today and for future generations. So I want to represent our district to create a thriving St. Pete that is grounded in community. Thank you.
Very much. And thank you to all of the candidates for participating this evening and for your commitment to public service. I want to share a few important reminders for all of our voters. Please contact the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections to assure that your mailing address is current. Vote by mail ballots are not forwardable, so that's very important. Florida law requires voters to request a vote by mail ballot after each general election. So if you haven't done it yet this year, please make sure you do it again. You have to renew it each election cycle. Vote by mail ballots must be received by the Supervisor of Elections no later than 7 p.m. on election day. And nonpartisan information about the election, the candidates across all of the races, and their responses to additional questions is available in the voter guide online at vote411.org. That's vote411.org. So all of the topics we didn't get to, you will hopefully be able to find more information about them there. Thank you to all of our lead volunteers who assisted with this forum, to our co-sponsors, the Council of Neighborhood Associations and the National Council of Negro Women, the St. Petersburg Metropolitan Chapter, and to the Enoch Davis Center for all of your support in hosting this event, and to all of you for being here. So this concludes the St. Petersburg City Council Forum for District 6. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening.